Okay, what's up? What's up? It's Everett. I'm here with John DiPasquale, the John Depot. Everybody knows him as Depot.
That's right.
I'm so worried about this conversation.
That is the word to use. I would say that's the proper fucking whatever part of speech that is.
I'm really,
I'm excited. This is cool.
I'm really concerned. Before we start, okay, something that you should know. So John and I wore this out on purpose. John and I are, and listen, we might turn off half the people listening to this podcast, but it is what it is. Okay. We are lifelong Yankee fans. And so I got a buddy who collected cards for like a long time since he was a kid. He's a little older than us. And he had a whole collection of cards. And he had a Mickey Mantle, like a 1955 Mickey Mantle. Yeah, like all sorts of stuff, right? So he's going through all of his stuff. He's getting rid of all of his old stuff. And he's selling his stuff. And dude, so I landed this 1954 Yogi Berra that he.
What?
Yeah, I mean it's
I can't
super
even imagine
cool.
what that's worth, bro.
It's believe it or not, it's not like it's not in amazing condition. It's not like rated. It's not like one of those PSA 10s or whatever. So it's not as much as you'd think. You know, like in the hundreds of dollars, right? Like not
You're not going on vacation with it.
Yeah, which is pretty nutty. The other thing was, and it's not here and I have this whole music room that I have here, and I have this. I have this. So I have these minor league Yankee cards that were given out to a player while he was on the Tampa Yankees, and this guy that I know was his college roommate. He was a kicker for Oklahoma State, but his roommate played baseball with Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera, and I have their minor league mint condition Tampa Rays rookie cards or whatever, like sitting back here, like it's on the hung up on the wall. It's pretty wild. Now those are worth actually quite a bit more. But all right, John Depot, listen, man, I'm sure everybody knows the rules. Okay, the rules are really simple. Okay, rule number one, it's all in good fun. That's pretty straightforward, right? Rule number two is if you're offended, it's your fault. All right, we're making fun of everybody. We're making fun of ourselves. It's America. We're First Amendment here. Rule number three: don't be a douche. No, no hate speech, all that stuff. I don't have to worry about that with you.
Oh my God. And I don't even know what hate speech. I was going to text you, and I was like, Everett, hate speech has a different definition for everybody. Please tell me what your line is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I have a line. You're probably, whatever it is, you're probably going to cross it. So that's fine.
Exactly. Strap it.
Rule number four is, your stories must be true. So obviously everybody knows the premise here. Listen, you've spent, give us some intro on yourself, man. Tell us who you are. Tell everybody who's listening who you are.
So I got into in-home sales with the company that I met you at. Actually, it's 9.5 years ago. I got pulled off of sales. I was selling cars, and Gio, probably a mutual friend of ours, came in to buy a car and ended up liking me and telling, are we allowed to use people's names that don't work with the company anymore? Dude. So Mr. Gray, we'll call him Mr. Gray. He was the manager at the time, and Gio told him about me, and they ended up get on the phone with me. This was like a Tuesday. I think on Wednesday, Bill Gray called me, talked to him for a few minutes on the phone. He told me to come in for an interview on Friday. Went in for an interview on Friday, and his closing statement was, any questions for me? And I say this to everybody who I know that's going for an interview. If they say you have any questions for you, what I did is I said, when do I start? He laughed, stuck out his hand. He says, you know what? You start Monday, just for saying that question. And 9.5 years later, I'm still with the same company. It certainly got its ups and downs. But for the most part, it's made my life what it is today. And, it's fun, man. And you come away with some crazy stories doing in-home sales. I tell people all the time when I'm in their house, when I see something cool, like one of my favorite parts about this job is the fact that I'm in your house and I come across all kinds of weird things. You just do. You you come across crazy people, you come across crazy animals in people's houses, and just, we were talking about the hoarder before, like, it's not like going to an office and seeing the same four walls every day. It's the very opposite of that.
Right. You're working in other people's houses.
Yeah. And most of the time they don't know that you're coming there that day. Like, at least for our part of the work, they may know a technician's coming out there, a couple of days from now, they might straighten up a little bit, but they don't necessarily know when they get on the phone with us that we're going to be out there in an hour, because that's what our whole thing is. So no one's going and cleaning up their house going crazy. So, I mean, like we said, we don't know, I've seen like sex toys in people's houses and all kinds of crazy things because people just forget, like, they're just living.
So I know you said, so you had a list. You had a list of stuff. Yeah. And it was it was an interesting list. So without, so let me ask you this. You brought up sex toys already.
What? Two good stories there.
All right. We might just go into it. What happened?
All right. So I was in this house. It was a mobile home, and I got you, bro. In the game a little bit now. It was a mobile home, and it was a mother and daughter. Mother must have been probably, I would say, late 60s, early 70s, around then, maybe a little bit older. Daughter was probably late 40s, early 50s. Heavy smokers, so they looked maybe 5 to 10 years older than they actually are. And, part of our job is measuring the home to figure out what size system they need, this and that. And as I go towards the bedrooms, I go into the mom's room, measure. I go to the daughter's room, who's, again, 50. She's a mom or maybe a grandmother herself. And those like old school, like Hitachi vibrators, those big wand things that have you plug it to the wall, the industrial strength.
I don't. And maybe
I don't know who's in the room with you right now, but I think you do know what I'm talking about. Anyways, this thing is just sitting there on the top of the dresser, and she's like, oh. So it's like, oh, all right, 9 by 9, one window. Okay, close the door. See you later. But it was fucking hysterical. There's like blood ran from her face and realized that I knew what I was looking at. She knew that I knew what I was looking at. It was pretty fucking hysterical. That was the one time I saw a sex toy in a woman's house. There was also the time last week I could tell you about if you want to get into that. I don't know if you have any questions about the first story. You're looking at somebody. I don't know who it is, but I feel bad about telling the story. Right?
No. Well, first of all, just so we're aware, this is like in my ears here. So no one can hear. Yeah, no one can hear what's going on here.
All right.
Thank goodness. Until they listen to this, which is going to be fantastic.
You might not want me to tell you the next story then.
No. See, this is the whole point. Like, this is supposed to be real stories. This is why we're doing this, to tell the real life of what we see every day.
So I'm on my way to this house last week, 2 weeks ago, and I talked to the technician about what's going on in this house. And he tells me about the story, and he before he hangs up, he's like, "Oh, wait, John." He's like, "Don't get distracted by the sex swing." And then hung up the phone. That was it. Just don't get distracted by the sex swing. And I was like, all right, what the fuck am I walking into right now? I get to the house, and this guy opens the door. Gentleman, nice guy. You could tell he might bat for both teams, we'll say. And as we're going through the house doing the measurements, I see there's another guy about his age, both probably in their like late 40s, 50, like that. And then a young man, maybe in his late 20s, like that, which could have been one of their sons. I don't know. And I came to learn that he was married and is now divorced. Didn't mention anything about his sexuality, obviously, but there was clues, including a sex dungeon in the basement where the furnace was. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you walk down the stairs, and then there's just like colorful lighting, right? Fully wall to wall, fully fucking decorated with all kinds of crazy things, including a full-on bed with bedding, with some fucking maybe chains or whatever the hell's going on the side. And then right next to the bed, there's this like, they have like an electric fireplace that like simulates like a fireplace, like one of those like long, thin ones. And hanging from the ceiling, like a heavy bag at a gym, is a full-on active sex swing. Right next to the bed, right in the middle of the basement, just full-on sex swing. I don't know if it was with him and his wife who was using it, him and his new dude. I don't know what the story was.
Hang on. So did he go downstairs with you?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And
so
we went downstairs for 15, 20 minutes just talking about HVAC related things. So, and not only that, the system was here, he was here, and the sex swing was behind him. So I'm facing this fucking thing the entire time, and he can't not know that that's there. Like, that's a purchase you would make. God.
No. I was going to say, like, do you think that he thought, like, he just so immune to it that it was sort of like normalized for him? Like, he didn't even think twice about it. He's like, no, this is my sex room.
I was worried that he left it up because maybe he was waiting for me to make a comment so he could dish out an invitation. I don't know.
Well, you are handsome, so those things happen.
I don't know if I flag anybody's gaydar, but yeah, it was interesting to see.
So
Red
tell
balls.
me about what's going through your head right there. Like, are you thinking to yourself, like, okay, like, let's just ignore that this exists completely? Like, is that where we're at?
I mean, listen, if it was me and I was not working, we for shit sure would be talking about it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm at your house with the intention of making a paycheck to pay my mortgage and feed my family. So I know that if I make it awkward, that's going to give you enough of a reason right then and there to not give me the sale. So I wasn't going to risk directly bringing anything crazy up like that. But it was, I mean, talk about an elephant in the fucking room, bro. Oh my God. Just silver metal with this black, looks like a horse saddle just hanging from the ceiling, just sitting there. It was pretty wild. And this was just like 2 weeks ago. If it was in 2024, I'll put it to you that way.
I have a record behind me that I got from a guy in Old Bridge that, and listen, they're a wonderful couple, batted for the other team. Very cool. The guy was inebriated. He was drunk out of his mind. And, we had a great time. Everything was cool. I love, music and musicals and all sorts of other stuff and all sorts of music. And we were listening to records. He was putting records on. There was no sales call. It was just, I'm listening to records. We're going to talk about HVAC at some point in time. And they bought a system. And then he's sitting there, he's flirting with me so badly. And I don't think he realized it, like right in front of his husband. And the guy's just flirting with me. And then he hands me this record and he goes, I want you to have this. I want you to have this record. And I'm like, okay, like, that's a cool gift. I appreciate it. I hope your husband doesn't mind that you hit on me for the last 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And what do you know? There we are.
And he bought. See, that's the thing. I know you don't want to make this about like sales strategies and stuff, but if you can make a sales call not about the sale, about anything else in the world that you connect with somebody, chances are you're going to sell that.
100%. 100%. And you're right. It's not about strategy, but it comes out in the story, right? It'd be unnatural for us to not address, that portion of it. Right. I think, and I talked about this today, and I think if it's like, if your intent is to go in there and to, try to sell somebody something, like you're probably not going to, like, that's just the reality. Right. And I think part of why you're successful and I've had a lot of success, and a lot of that Phil and a lot of other people have had success. I think it's because we're good at making friends. We're good at being real with people. And I think that the faster people realize that, the faster they're going to get, real good, real fast. So, but what else you got in the arsenal there? I'd be interested to hear, because I saw some things on that list that I was like, now, mind you, I didn't say this before, but obviously this is completely unscripted, unedited. So everything you say can and will be used against you. All right.
Yeah, I've been worried about that for 2 years doing my podcast about the dry. Saying some crazy things on that podcast too.
Plug your podcast now. What's the name of your podcast again?
So I do with Mike and Jules the Big Blue Offensive podcast. It's a New York Football Giants podcast. Been doing it the last couple of years. It's not our main career, obviously. It's just we do it just kind of for fun. But we got listeners. Every couple of months, I'll ask Mike to rattle off, the new countries that we have that have listened to us. And there's got to be probably 25, 30 different countries we've come up on our list that people have the listen in: India, Italy, and, name a country.
Wow.
And there's a chance that we were streaming there. It's pretty wild because you just like me and you, we're sitting in our homes right now just bullshitting, and all of a sudden somebody in fucking Cameroon is listening to us because they're in sales and they want to hear some crazy stories.
Well, there is somebody, so I got to listen. I looked at the stats. I got to listen from Turkey.
There you go.
You want to guess? You want to guess who that was?
John Sabras. I was right.
I don't know. It just shows me analytics and says you have listeners in Turkey, and I don't know anybody else in the country of Turkey, and I'm sure this podcast is so new at this point in time that it has to be John. So
yeah. Something to that effect that's pretty cool that I had to do on my podcast, and we can get back to some couple cool stories. We at one point, Dexter Lawrence, the defensive tackle for the New York Giants, Sexy Dexy as he's called, Leonard Williams, who I'm sure you're very familiar with as a Jets fan, and a couple other guys. At some point during the off season, they had posted on Instagram that they were in this particular country, this particular island on vacation altogether. And the following week we had talked about it, whatever it was. No. So how did this go? So we saw that they were in this country, and then when we're on the podcast, we looked it up, and then that country had popped up. So it was like, I don't know, let's say Aruba or something like that, or whatever they were, St. Thomas. Someplace in the Caribbean, and that country had turned up. So the joke for a few weeks was that Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams should listen to our podcast. So I don't know if it's true, but
they probably did.
Evidence suggests that they did.
Oh my gosh. So what do you got? You got some crazy stuff? What do you got?
So the oldest memory I have of being in this business is actually not a particularly funny one in any way, shape, or form. If you notice on the list, number one is old Polish guy with gun. And it's a pretty sad story, but I was in this house. I was an old guy, 6'8". I don't know if he was Polish, but definitely Eastern European of some kind. And very somber fella, needed a system. And I'm going back. This is 2014, 2015, like that. Show me the system. We go through the information, and we're sitting at his kitchen table. All the while, he's got this manila folder with a photo of what turns out to be him and his wife when they first met 60-something years ago, and he had recently lost her. And on his table, the entire time I was with this guy, was a little revolver and one bullet. So he said he wanted to have the house fixed up for when, if anything ever happened to him, so his kids wouldn't have to deal with anything. So I don't know what ended up ever coming out of that. But that shit sits with me. I will never forget the black gun with the brown wood handle and the one bullet just sitting there right next to the manila folder, opened up to a picture of him and his wife when they were kids. And just the sadness in the guy's voice. And just like, you could almost see his aura was like just broken. And like I said, not a particularly rosy story in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, man, this old guy, it was heartbreaking. Even to this day, just thinking about
So did you guys have any conversations? Like, I mean, after he told you that or after you saw that? I mean, it's tough to do.
I didn't bring up the gun. And I was also very new to the business. So I definitely was not trying to, make a conversation of it. And you could just, the energy in the house was that of like, hey, listen, do what you got to do here, help the guy out and keep him moving. And, it was pretty sad, man. It was just, all hunched over and just like a broken, like he lost his best friend, which obviously he did. But it was pretty crazy, man. He bought, thank God, for my sake, but it's a story that I'll never forget. And it's probably, obviously the darkest of any stories that I'll have on here, or hopefully in my career. But yeah, just seeing that old guy, man, lost his wife, and I don't know what he was prepared to do with that one bullet, but I don't think it was anything good.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I've met a lot of lonely people. This is something that is a common theme, that there's just a lot, like I just noticed, like it seems, and I who knows why, but it's like I ran a string and I'll never forget this. And it was like, before I moved to Dallas, And it was this string of like 2 weeks where I met with like 6 or 7 widows in like a 2-week period. And I for the life of me, I couldn't understand what I thought. Like, God's trying to tell me something. I'm like, holy moly. And then this woman, I told her this in the house in Piscataway. And I said, hey, I'm just going to tell you something, because we had a really tight bond. Her husband had died not too, I said, this is just crazy. I'm just going to tell you this because I'm a spiritual guy. I'm like, and I told her, and she was like, I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm like, am I going to die? She's like, and I think she just said, hey, I think God, the universe is trying to tell you the importance of being a father, of being a husband. That was her takeaway on it. And I took that and I kept it with me. And then I brought that into my life because I thought about that. It made me a better person.
I can see that. I could also, where I thought you were going to go with that, as your listeners will learn over your, continuing to do this podcast, you have a very likable personality and you have awesome energy about you. And the first thing I thought of when you said that is God or the universe or whatever term you want to use for whatever we're talking about there, put you in front of these people because they were in a very dark place and you have a joy about you. So maybe
that would have been nice if they said that, John, but they didn't say that.
That's what I thought. That's what I have. Why I would see you go into all these places, that there was a few people that needed you and, you were sent there because, I guarantee you, knowing you for the better part of 7-8 years at this point, at some point, each one of those people smiled while you were at their house. Guarantee it.
Yeah. Huh. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So what,
you want to hear the next one?
Yeah. You know what, dude? Like, yeah, let's just make it natural, whatever it is, I mean,
so we just had a dark story. So let's lighten it up with the second story on this.
For sure.
Says Lady in Robe. So,
I like the name of this story already.
Oh yes, you're gonna like the story. So I get a call and I get to I'm in this house in Colts Neck or Middletown, someplace in Central Jersey with a very large house. Lady opens up the door. Turns out she's the housekeeper. She's just some little South American lady who's cleaning. And it's one of these houses where you walk into like this grand foyer, and it's got the 2 staircases that go up with the balcony that connects the master suite, the master wing upstairs to where all the children's bedrooms would be. And this lady comes down in a silk robe, poking through, short, maybe like a third the thigh down, just loose, silky robe, pointing both nipples, just beep, right in your face. So this woman for an hour, I'm not kidding, I was in the house for an hour and a half. The first hour just stayed in this fucking robe, walked me up and down. Hey, follow me upstairs. The system's in the attic. And listen, I forgot to say, this lady was probably like early 40s, right? So she's not going to be the equivalent of some 22-year-old Maxim model. But what I'll tell you is this: 20 years prior, she could have been. She was gorgeous.
Bro, you just early 2000s yourself.
How?
Well, you said she's not some Maxim model, and I haven't even heard a reference to that magazine. I haven't even heard a reference to that magazine in like literally 15 years.
Yeah,
so,
well,
congratulations. What's that?
You can see the grays in the beard. I'm not hiding. 36 and change, 37 next month.
All right, so she's there. Her nips are out.
She's
talking to you now. Okay, tell me about what's the internal dialogue here?
It's just thank you, really. I mean, she was.
Oh my god.
she wasn't like coming on. So I'm not trying to pretend like, it was anything like that. But
was she intoxicated?
No, this was midday. This was just, she must have appreciated being looked at as a desirable person, when maybe her husband wasn't looking at her the same way than when they were younger. I don't know. But she definitely was enjoying being in that fucking robe. There's no question about it. Towards the end of the sit, she did go and change and put something more modest on. She was going out. She left in her Ferrari, just to paint the full picture. Yeah, exactly. Her husband had bought her a Ferrari a few years back for whatever reason. Who knows? But there's a possibility that all those different data points are all tied together, and the reason why she was looking to have someone else enjoy her beauty from a distance.
Survey says.
Yeah. If you connect the dots there, she was having fun. But yeah, this like just dark silk, like I said, this wasn't like your grandmother's robe. This was like a robe that they used to cover up porn actresses in between scenes. And she was enjoying it. That's all. That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's like, yeah, I got to go. I got to talk to my husband about this. So she didn't buy, but she pulled out of the driveway when I was in the driveway in a silver Ferrari. And I was like,
she rolls out in a Ferrari and she doesn't buy. That's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, that was a long time ago too. So Nancy, if you listen to this was before I met you.
You got to preface that. You got to preface things.
Well, okay. If you can edit that, put that sentence in the front of the story.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if I told you this, John, but this is unedited and unabridged, and it's what you say is what you say. So it is what it is. Otherwise, it would take away the whole authenticity of this.
I hear you. We don't edit our podcast either, so I understand completely.
Well, just make sure it doesn't get forwarded to her, I guess, is the best I could say, right? I mean, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm gonna send her a copy myself, actually. Hey, Nance, here's a copy. Here
Lady,
it is.
Oh, you change the name to Lady and Robe.
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna. Yeah.
You're
so
gonna
tell me something. Tell me something. What's like the most surprising, like the random surprising, like what the heck is going on kind of story? What do you got in the arsenal there?
So one thing that was truly disgusting and revolting, and I apologize to anybody eating while listening to this, but I pull up to this house and I can't say, so I was in this house because I never actually got into the house. As I'm walking up the driveway, this house is a nice house for Central Jersey, right? Center Hall Colonial, nothing too dramatic, but not a small house either. Not disastrous, but not well kept either. As I'm walking up the driveway, the garage is closed, but I can smell something from it. And the lady runs out the front door, right? Meets me in the driveway. Says, hey, I'll meet you down there. I'll meet you at the base of the driveway. And there's just this smell coming from the house. I was like, what the fuck? Right? So I'm talking to her down at the street, which is probably like a 50, 60 foot driveway. So not short. And we're talking. She's like, listen, my house is a mess, this and that. I got to get a company to come in here and take care of it. She was a hoarder, it turned out. And she's like, I just want a price on to replace the system. And I was like, I understand that you don't want me to go in the house, but I don't know what to replace your system with without actually going there. And this is probably like 7 or 8 years ago, before the technicians were uploading pictures and stuff like that. So I had no idea what was in there. Because they're not exactly the best at divulging all the information for some reason. But anyways, I was like, I just got to get into the basement just to see the system, and then we'll be out. I don't have to go through the whole thing if you don't want me to, this and that. So she's like, okay. She's like, I can take you into the basement directly from the garage, and it'll take you right into the basement. But please understand, like, it's a mess. So start walking up the driveway, and again, as I get close to the house, I start to smell this just pungent, rancid, I don't know. Lady opens the garage up, and I get billowed like Backdraft the movie with the fire and the elevator, whatever it was, but of cat piss. This lady, ever when you go into a house that has cats and they don't take care of them, it's not like dogs, it's not like a hoarder. It is a unique tinge to the air, like almost so you could see it in the air, and you know exactly the smell I'm talking about. This lady must have had
horrific,
bro. I didn't get halfway into the garage, but I had maybe taken 3 breaths since I stepped into the garage, and I literally told the lady to listen. I'm really sorry. I can't continue. I have to turn around and get back in. I can't breathe in here. So she went downstairs, took a picture of the system. I met her in the garage. I met her outside at the end of the driveway. Never actually went into the house, but boxes, garbage, just think of the TLC show Hoarders, and then just drip a pool full of cat piss on top of it. And this is what this lady existed like. I literally, at the time, we had a different manager than we do now. I asked the manager, I was like, listen, I was only in the house for a minute. I can't get the smell in my nose. I was like, let me go home and take a quick shower, change my clothes, because I don't want to go into somebody else's house smelling like this if they could smell me, because no one's going to buy shit from me if I smell like I was just fucking, I'm a litter box. It was the most revolting smell I've ever smelled in my entire life.
It's mental illness too. And like I told you, I have this woman coming on who does like cleans out hoarders' houses, and she has shown pictures like I can't even. And she's doing TikToks now where she does like a before and after, and it's unbelievable. Like one day she got like in like an hour, she got like 2,000 followers on TikTok from posting one. I mean, the video is disgusting. You know, it's interesting. I actually remember doing a job. This is like 5 years ago or so, where like, it didn't smell so good. I was in the basement, and then the guys, the guys actually got there, and they brought like, gas masks or whatever they brought, and they were like, we can't work. They actually said, we can't do this job. We can't work here. They said, you're gonna have to keep all the windows and all the doors open for the whole night, and we'll come back tomorrow because we can't breathe down here. Yeah. And so they did it. And there was another woman up in like Hackensack area. And I'm not even kidding when I say this. This is crazy. Now, her house didn't smell, but you know how they say there's like cat people? This woman, okay, lonely woman. I mean, I was out in the backyard and I'm looking around. I see all these cats everywhere. Turns out she was like feeding all the strays and stuff like that. And they were like coming in and out of the house. She had 18 cats. She had 18 cats. Like, she's the actual cat lady.
Yeah.
Like she's the cat lady.
Yeah. She's the poster child for the word.
18 cats.
It's, I always joke with Nancy because she loves cats. We had, when we went to Jamaica, if you remember, for my wedding a couple months back, we had just gotten 2 kittens a couple months prior. And since about 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. They had babies. So now I have the 2 cats that are only 6 months old, and they had just had 4 kittens. So right now I have 6 cats in my house. It is a disaster. We didn't plan for this. This just happens. Happened in the middle of the night.
Hang on. The 2 kittens that you got, were they brother and sister?
They were from the same litter.
Okay, so you have inbred kittens.
Yeah, they're cute as fuck, though. I'll tell you that.
Hold on. I just got to back up here for a second. So
I don't think the cats know about what you're talking. I think they just have an instinct.
Okay. I don't know. Is that a thing? Like, do we know? Is that a thing? Like, can you inbred cats, or do they not care? Is it like, do they not follow the same order of operations?
What I can tell you is from what I understand, all cheetahs look exactly the same because of inbreeding. There's not very much difference in their spots and stuff like that because of inbreeding. I don't know. Tigers do look different. They say no 2 tigers have the same stripes. But yeah, they don't have any qualms about it. Apparently, they were from the same litter. We got them. They were maybe 3 or 4 weeks old. Someone had fucking thrown their litter, which was 6 cats, into a dumpster. Like, had a sack of kittens and threw them in the dumpster.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Why is it okay? So I have 3 cats. Okay. I have 1 cat that was found in a gutter, like born in a gutter, an actual gutter, and they pulled the cat out of the gutter. Like, I can kind of understand that. Like, okay, like whatever.
A stray cat having a baby.
All right. The other cat is a dumpster cat. So I have a gutter cat and I have a dumpster cat. But so hold on. So then the dumpster cat, I don't understand. Why is every cat thrown away in the dumpster. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. This is ready. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think that these places that find them, the rescues, they say, and people are going to hate me for saying this. I know they will, but I think they just tell people, and it's okay. I think it's fine, right, dude? Hey, listen, I was adopted, okay, and when I was a kid, a baby or whatever, I was actually, believe it or not, I was actually a foster kid, and then but I was a really young baby. And then they like totally lied to my mom and said, yeah, he's with foster family. It's really, whatever story. And so that she would adopt me. And there I am. I got adopted. And it was good. It worked out. It worked out. I got to live in the burbs.
Yeah. I mean, it works, but I will say this was just a lady. This was just like someone posted on Facebook, and her friend, someone had given her a bag of cats, a sack of cats.
Oh wow.
And
that's normal.
Someone found the sack of kittens in the dumpster. They heard them meowing. They went in the dumpster, took the cats out.
Oh, that's crazy. See, now this sounds like a real story.
Yeah.
See, but I'm just saying, it seems like every cat, every dog, everything was found in the corner of the dark. And if it wasn't for you, pulling them out of this darkness, that they would still be in this lonely corner. And I'm not saying that the animals aren't mistreated at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it seems like every single story I hear is like one of 4 stories. So I'm sorry.
In my head, right now, all I hear is a Sarah McLachlan song. You could sing. I can't.
I probably offended so many animal lovers saying that. It's probably so bad.
I mean, but you're not wrong though. Did I rescue my dog, or did my dog rescue me? Like, they always have a fucking story. Oh, he was found down by the fucking LA River. He was eating fucking squirrels and shit. And now I had
he was in a van.
Yeah.
Down by the river.
Yeah. That's enough. Yeah, dude. So they ended up having some kittens, but it's, they're 2 weeks old, and, I don't know if you want a 4th cat, but I'm sure I could send one to Dallas. I got to find homes for these motherfuckers.
No. And I'm not even going to say no, thank you. I'm not even going to say no, thank you. I'm just going to say no.
There you go.
Because I don't want you to think that there's anything polite about my no.
No.
Just no.
Yeah. Yeah. Option, do nothing. Check. Can you do me a favor? It's been years since I've heard this story told. Can you tell me about the talk to my neighbor? Can you tell me that story again?
No. I wanted almost to be like a standalone episode. Like I just
oh man.
I just was gonna make it like a 5-minute story. It's aired, so
no, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. I just had it on my list. No. It's such a fucking funny story, bro.
I'll tell you what. I will tell it, and when I do, because Bill said it at the end of the last episode, and he said,
"Yeah, he did say it.
Why don't you talk to your neighbor?" Yeah. So we'll leave it out there. We'll put a teaser. Just know, guys, when I post my the name of the episode will be "Why do you want to talk to my neighbor?"
Can you write it the way I wrote it? Because he's like, talking to my neighbor.
Why do you want to talk to my neighbor? Okay.
Yeah, man.
What else you got, man? What else you got? Cat ladies. You got cat ladies. You got a very sad suicidal kind of story. You got naked women. What else you got?
Well, just as a reminder, when Russ comes on, I don't know when you're going to have him on. Or are you going to have Russ on at some point?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Tell him Tiger Dog. That'll be the name of your episode. Tiger Dog.
All right. Tiger Dog.
Tiger Dog. He'll tell you. It's whatchamacallit. Yeah. So this one time so I was in this house, and it was a really nice house in North Jersey somewhere. And you just talking about sports memorabilia a couple minutes ago. And unfortunately, my fucking light blew out of my office the other day, and I forgot to change the bulb. So I apologize.
It's like what happened to Phil.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see behind me, but I think I signed baseballs over here. Above that, which you can't see because it's too dark, It's an Andy Pettit signed plaque. I have a signed Saquon jersey above me, above the television in front of me. So I'm into sports memorabilia, this kind of same way you are. And I'm in this house, and this is a big ass house. This is no like Central Jersey Center Hall Colonial. This is like a holy fuck house. And this guy's got a room that was like 40 feet by 20 feet, just like up in the whatever fucking eastern wing of the house, that is just wall to wall, like a museum, not like our rooms where it's kind of just like stuff like, scattered around, like looks cool, whatever. This was like, you walk through like a gallery and there's one painting with a light above it, plaque underneath it, and tells you what it is. Then 10 feet over is another thing. Picture that, like Scrooge McDuck's house, with all these like almost priceless autographed fucking things from all sorts of different sports figures. And he didn't go through the room like piece by piece with me. But we had walked through it, and he had mentioned, he's like, that thing's worth like $16,000. This thing's worth like $8,000. And just like looking around, I was like, there's probably $100,000 or more in fucking sports memorabilia in this one room alone in this guy's house. Just all kinds of cool autograph things, like you said, like a Mickey Mantle fucking autograph card, like crazy fucking things that this guy had in his house. And that just kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, about like, it was one of the coolest parts about the job is seeing crazy things. I was in this house one time. So this house, and it's got a 2-floor aquarium in his house. Like Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo had just wrapped his walls with all different, fish tanks. And on 2 different floors, his basement was basically a fish market of all different kinds of tropical fish and stuff like that, and all these different aquariums. And his first floor, half of his first floor was all fucking aquariums, all different kinds of fish. This is salt water.
You ask a guy what that kind of thing costs?
I didn't specifically ask him, but there was no doubt it was life savings was in these fish, because it was 60 different tanks of different kinds of things, and like all taken care of. Nothing was like, I mean, bro, people got their fucking passions.
So think about that for a second, right? This dude has $100,000, $200,000 worth of fish tanks and tropical, rare fish.
Yep.
Okay. Think about the amount of obsession, infatuation you have to have in order to spend that kind of money. I mean, and what's crazy is like, we live in a very like kind of normal world. Like, oh yeah, football on Sundays, turkey on Thanksgiving, whatever. Right. But like, I don't think people realize how many strange people there are. And when you're like okay, so let's do the math, because I did this with Phil. 10 years, roughly 10 years, 500 calls a year. You've been in about 5,000 houses, and you obviously more probably, you work 5.5, 6 days, whatever it is. I mean, it's a lot of houses, right? So, and you figure that translates to tens of thousands of people, a few house, a few people per house. You reminded me of the fish tanks. I walked into this house that was in Manalapan. I think it was Manalapan, dude, in New Jersey. Okay. I walk in, and there were endangered species, among other animals, hanging in on the walls everywhere, all over the place.
Wow.
Rugs,
hunter,
dude. I'm talking. Went on safaris, paid hundreds of thousands of dollars over however many years. Went back, had like strange ibex and like. In fact, I even asked about this one animal that I had never seen. He's like, yeah, actually, that's illegal. Like, you can't even hunt those. And it was all taxidermied. Yeah. He was like, yeah, it's taxidermied. It was taxidermied. It was nuts. I mean, a bear skin rug. I mean, there wasn't a spot on the wall of this house that didn't have an animal head on the wall. It was it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I'm not all about killing endangered animals, but I'm just saying it was one of the coolest things that I'd ever really seen. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen too. And when the guy was like, yeah, that's illegal, you can't even hunt those anymore, like you're not even allowed to, it's illegal, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
that's wild. I don't know. So I think for the average person, you're not going to be in all that many houses in your life. Think about it. Like, you're going to go in your own houses, which you're probably going to own maybe 3 or 4 houses in your lifetime. Whatever friends and friends of friends. Maybe you'll be in like 30 houses in your entire life.
Bro, think about some of the people that we've seen that are sort of hermit-like people. They'd probably be lucky to go into like 3 or 4 houses a year that aren't, maybe less, that aren't their own.
Yeah. What if you don't have, I mean, just something like the average person, like if you don't do in-home anything and you go to an office, you work a job for 25 years, or you just always never worked in people's houses, what reason would you be having to go into random people's houses? Zero. So you're going to go into your aunt's house, your cousin's house, your buddy's house, and that's pretty much fucking it for your whole entire life. So when you go into these houses, and especially like in New Jersey, you don't find a ton of hunters like that. When you see an animal on a wall like that, and maybe this is just me, and maybe I'm just talking, and I'm the only person on this island here, but when you look and you see like a bear on someone's wall, like a bear head, or even just a deer head, it's kind of striking. Like it grabs you, like it grabs your attention. Like you just see this thing like hanging on the wall. And when you go to someone's house and they have like an Ace Ventura fucking style where there's all kinds of animals all over the place, and you're just looking around, there's an eerie sense of death and like also like sportsman, like, prowess. Like you almost like respect the guy, like, bro, like you put fucking work in to make this room look like this. Like, you have to take this. This is not like, I learned how to snowboard over a weekend and I'll have a couple brews here and there. Like, this is you love this shit. Like, you're a professional.
Yeah. So like here in Texas, though, it's not, I mean, it's very common.
Yeah. Completely different in Jersey.
It's very common to see, antlers up on the wall, but still it's usually the same animals, right? It's like, oh, that's a hog. Usually you're not gonna taxidermy hogs, but if it was like a wart hog or something like that, or like
some big motherfucker.
Yeah, or like a fish, whatever. But yeah, it's go ahead.
I was just gonna say my last appointment in 2023, I walked into this guy's house. So I'm in this house, right? Guy takes us to the basement where the system is, and as I come down the stairs, speaking of Ace Ventura, there's this like 10-foot crate that you would see like they would transport animals with, like almost like with the red stamp on it, like like the regular like white pine looking wood, and it's just like this crate that's built, and there's like these 2 windows, and you can see that it's like a terrarium built into this monster crate. So as we're going this, I'm looking, I'm like, what I was like, what do you got in there? And he's like, are you afraid of snakes? And I was like, I mean, this is a big crate. Maybe not usually. Bro, this guy had, I wrote 14-foot python. This thing was no less than 11, 12 feet and girth. So I was like, dude, what is going on here? Like, you have a fucking, apex predator just in your basement chilling. Like, he's like, man, he's like, I'm almost 40 years old. He's like, I've had this thing since I was a teenager. He's like almost 30 years old. This snake he got the snake like 30 years ago or 20 something years or whatever it was, had it his whole entire life, only takes it out when he's home alone, right? Locks the basement door, goes downstairs and let it have run of the basement. Doesn't ever try to hurt him. Like, that's his best friend. And like bro, it was, the head was like this. Like, I know you can't tell because of the camera, but the head was like
it was like this.
Yeah, like,
isn't that such a strange existence?
A snake, or just
like,
having snakes?
Yeah, like owning a domesticated snake in some kind of cage, terrarium, whatever it is, and that's its life. And then you feed it, and it's down there in the basement. Lights come on. I mean, it's just weird. It's just a strange existence.
It's weird and it's kind of cruel. I guess
it's one thing, a dog, right? Like, oh, you take out the dog, you play with the dog goes in and out of the house and everything else, and it's like kind of like doing its thing. You take it to the dog park. It's another thing. The thing lives in basically this, and look, they probably live in the jungle in like a tiny little, space their whole lives anyway. But I'm just saying, it's like it's a very strange domesticated. I always thought that was weird, like just domesticated like animals that really, and I'm sure I'm going to offend some snake lover out there. I promise you, someone's going to get offended. But like, right. Like it doesn't like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. There's no affection there. It's not like, you come home and your snake greets you at the door.
I can't imagine that at all. I know my cousin had a snake when I was a kid, and he only had it for a few months. One of my good buddies had a snake for like a year or two, and he says that the snake was affectionate, but like, all right, so what do? You're taking it out of the fucking tank. It's in your hand, wrapped around your hand, and it looks at you and like a snake does, and you think it's trying to kiss you like a cat would. Like I don't know what you're thinking about. I was like, but it's I don't know how affectionate a snake is. I think it's just something about like the rebelliousness of having a snake for people. Because I always wanted a snake.
You think so? I think there's people, because I know somebody that she loves these snakes. Like,
I love.
I mean, it's like, oh, great! I offended you.
No. It's a weird thing to fucking want to have. The fucking mark of the devil. Like it's not something you usually
I don't know. Yeah. But dude, what? You didn't go through your whole. Is there more on that list there? What else you got on that list there? Is there something else?
I got old Polish gun. I got lady in robe, 14-foot python, lady, cat lady hoarder. The first time I ever had an Indian meal. So I was in this house, and this very nice family offered me Indian food. And listen, I have one of the most narrow palates of any human being I've ever had in my entire life.
Right, meatballs, sauce, pasta.
That's it. That's
chicken
it. That's
parmigiano.
Yeah, I'll have an Italian sandwich for lunch. No, but yeah, I grew up in an Italian household, and that's pretty much I ate Italian food, steak, pork chops, chicken cutlets, and that was like my whole palate my entire life. I didn't try sushi until I was like in my mid-20s, and to this day I can't eat it. Like I'll have a piece and be like, oh, that was pretty good. I have another piece. Oh, that's pretty good. Wasabi, I like spicy. But by the third piece, I'm literally. I mean, like little piece. I don't mean like roll. I mean third piece. I'm like trying to choke it down my fucking throat, and I just can't eat it.
All right. So you got this nice Indian couple and family, and what they make you some Indian food. Oh, I got to hear this. What happened?
They're making dinner, and as you know, when in that section of the world, when they make dinner, the neighbors know, everybody knows, pungent, spicy. But they're like, no, you got to try it. It's so good. And I was like, I never had Indian food ever. And he's like. I told him, I was like, I do like spicy food. I will say, I like, I'll sit here and sweat into my eyeballs. Like I like spicy food. And he goes, okay. So whatever dish his wife was making, they gave me was just a chicken dish with rice, and I had it, and I was like, you know what, this is fucking pretty good. And not that I've had Indian food a whole bunch of times since then, but it did change my perspective and broaden my palate a little bit. That's this one Indian family. So thank you to whatever Patel's that was.
So this is a very interesting choice of story, because if you think about it, right, it's not strange, it's not out of the world, there's nothing weird about it, it's nothing crazy about it. You just tried new food, and I think that is something that we can all learn from, right? It's like you have learned to open up your mind, open up your keep the pathways open. Let me listen. There's a lot.
I was handcuffed by my training. I got to say that. So, in my training for HVAC sales, I was told if someone offers you something, unless it's alcohol or drugs, never say no. Take whatever they
say yes.
You have to say yes. Glass of water, dinner, whatever the case is. Don't ever say no. You don't ever want to say someone no because you don't want someone to say no to you. Whatever. So I was like, fuck. I gotta sell them something, even though they're probably not going to buy it because they're Indians. But or they're going to cancel, whatever. And I was kind of forced, like, you know what? Let me fucking try it. And I will say it was fucking good. Whatever she made, it was authentic. They were from India. It was spicy as fuck. But what's better than chicken and rice and spicy? Yeah, a bowl of pasta, a slice of pizza. There's a bunch of things that are better than that, but still, you know what I mean?
So you look back at 10 years of doing this, and if you could tell yourself something 10 years, like go back in the past and talk to 10 years ago, John, what would you say?
Trust your instincts. Yeah. Trust your instincts. I felt it when, Gio told me to talk to Bill and give it a shot. You're doing, you're good at sales. And at the time I was only like, I was 26, 27 years old at the time. So wasn't like a seasoned salesperson from the standpoint of like, I was in the car business for 10 years, like a lot of you guys were and stuff like that, like Russ and Phil and all them. I did sales, but I worked for Verizon, I worked for supplement companies. So like big ticket items, it was relatively new to. But yeah, it was like, trust yourself. Like it was like, make sure you do like the right thing there and like give it your all. And it's where you're supposed to be. And 9.5 years later, like I don't regret for a second choosing to come to this company and never ever once even creating a resume since I've been there to explore other opportunities. For the most part, they've done right by me. I've done right by them, trying to always do my best by people's houses, represent the company as good as I can. And perform well, which I have. So I'm glad I didn't doubt my skill set in the field where I could have made a life for myself. Because at the time I was I was in an apartment, I was not making a ton of money, and it could have went a lot of different ways for me. With different jobs, and maybe I would have gone into construction or took some city exam somewhere and had to move to Staten Island and stuff like that to go be a cop somewhere. Like I have a whole different, wonderful life because I trust my instincts. I didn't get scared of like, okay, you're not going to have anything. You're going to a whole new thing you don't know nothing about. HVAC you have no interest in. You're not mechanically inclined like that. Just trust your instincts and, follow where your heart feels like it's pulling you, and do that with everything in life. So.
Why do you think you're sick? Why do you think you're so successful?
I think a lack of shame is part of it. I will definitely force myself to be like I was told in training, leave them bleeding. So specifically with this job, I think I just don't let people say no unless they're really like getting tired of me being there and I can feel like they want to fucking wring my neck. So that's from why I'm successful at this particular company and this particular job. I think is that just not taking no for an answer and making sure that I'm putting my best foot forward and trying to be likable. Why do I think I'm successful as a person in general is because I did focus on creating a skill set that can make money. And I think that's important for everybody. Like there's a lot of people who go to school for dumbass degrees and sign up for $100,000 in fucking student loan that they'll pay back for 20 years for a degree they're never going to use. Like I have friends that are fucking paying $700 a month right now in student loans and they don't even work in remotely the industry that they got a degree in. So I feel there's a lot of wasted effort out there by people. And I, when I was 19, I got my first sales job. I was good right out of the gate, and I always felt like I could do sales. And I said, what company doesn't need a good salesperson in some way, shape, or form? None. So be good at it and you will find success with things you're doing. And, trying to be, not having a lack of shame and saying stupid things. Like I've said crazy things on this fucking podcast in the last hour we've been talking. That lack of shame will allow you to kind of step outside the conversation a little more.
Nothing in this world happens unless something is bought or sold. And that's the reality. And I think that people don't unfortunately realize that, sales is not a dirty word. Sales makes the world go round.
Just said that shit yesterday.
Sales makes the world go round. It is what it is. I mean, the last department to ever go when there's layoffs, sales, right? The safest job in a company, sales,
Assuming
what's crazy. What's that?
Assuming that you're good enough to know what you're doing and be good for the company. Because then you'll be the first people to go.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I didn't mean to throw your train of thought off there, though. My bad.
No. And Bro, this has been an amazing conversation. I've had like this, I'm stoked. I'm excited to be doing this and walking down this path. And when you said you'd come on and you were excited about this, I was really happy about it. And I think everybody's been really supportive, and I'm actually surprised at the amount of people that are actually interested in this and interested in both coming on and listening to it. And I can start to see that. I think this is going to be really, really positive. And look, man, I'm going to get, there's a lot happening in the world, right? Like there's so much bullshit happening with social media and politics, and people hate each other, and it's so crazy, bro. Even in our own business, and I know you're not really involved with this, but this really gets under my skin. It's like I watch these people who are out there, peddling whatever kind of home services stuff or whatever it is, and like it's all good. There's great stuff out there. I'm not saying that there isn't, right? There's great resources out there, but there's a lot of shady people out there too. And a lot of these people that are having these conversations with people are coming from a place of shadiness. They're not coming from a place that the intentionality is not to help. The intentionality is that they're trying to, there's something like under the surface. They are trying to sell you something. They're trying to, roll you up, whatever the case may be. Some of it is going to make these people a ton of money, right? But I wanted to have conversations like this because it shows more of like the human side of what we do and the experiences that we go through. And so that's where this is at. So sorry, man, I got on a little rant there.
Yeah.
But I'm passionate about it. And part of the reason why I started this was exactly for that reason, so that you could, listen in. If you're a service technician, you're, in HVAC sales, in-home sales, whatever you do, clean houses, I don't care. You're working in somebody else's house. And I thought that this was something, obviously it's called Sales Tales, so it's going to lean, heavy towards that. But that's where this comes from, man. And I'm happy to be your friend. I'm really stoked, man. Any last words before any last words before we get out of here?
I mean, I think that we covered the stories that I had written down for the most part. But yeah, man, I like the concept of this, man. I feel like I said before, we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I do a podcast with a couple of my buddies, but I'm stuck in, it's just Giants. Like it's just an 90% Giants, 10% NFL, and then we're kind of trapped with like within the category that we are. So something like this, like you can touch on so many different things.
This is the Joe Rogan podcast for people who are in sales or work in somebody else's house.
Yeah. And it's cool too, because like we said, you don't, most people, you're not going into so many houses, so you have an opportunity to like kind of like get a view into like really what humanity looks like. If you listen to but when you're 100 episodes in and you got 100 different people on here with 10 stories each person, it's a pretty good sample size of the population, because you're going to think everybody lives like you. They fucking don't. I promise you. There's some fucking weirdos out there.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. And actually it will open your eyes to how sheltered we really are as people when you start to see how many types are there. I'll tell you what, this was something that came up today, and I'm going to actually pull it up, and I'm going to end on this story, because I had put a post out there and I had asked some people to tell a story that happened to you. And this guy actually submitted this story to me, and it was absolutely bonkers. Okay. So this guy was working in Florida, and they were doing HVAC in a garage. Okay. Like a 9-car garage, like in Sarasota, something crazy. And I want to get the story right. So I'm looking at the notes he's got here. Okay. So he looks across the way and he notices a house that he was in 7 years prior. And he remembered the house because the woman in the house had become spiteful.
Robe on with nipples out? No, sorry.
Yes.
The woman in the house. I'm sorry.
No, the woman in the house had become spiteful with her husband at the time, her ex-husband.
This is juicy.
And she took, she had taken, he had a 1965 Corvette, and she chopped it up into pieces, took it apart, and she put a large portion of it in the attic. He went up to look at the air handler, and he noticed that they had put a part of a Corvette in there, and she had other pieces like lying around, right? So I think they were they were disassembled and they were hiding it in the attic. So 7 years later, he's at the house next door or nearby, and the house had been vacant because of the housing bust. So he was like, hey, man, we could go in that attic and we could get that Corvette if we only had the frame. The frame. We just need the frame. Everything else, all the parts were there. Everything was there. Like a week earlier, the guy who he was doing the work for in the garage, he was a motorhead. He had all sorts of vets and all sorts of cars. His wife had found a hunk of metal in their yard, and she had called the scrappers to come get the hunk of metal. It was the frame of the 65 vet that she had scrapped.
Ended up across the street or nearby in this person's backyard.
So
this sounds like some kind of fucking science fiction thing.
So had she kept it there, had she kept the frame there just like a week or two earlier, they would have had all the parts to reconstruct a 1965 Corvette.
That is wild. And I don't even, how did this woman chop up this car? Like she took it apart like a mechanic and just like, that's insane.
Dude, I don't know. She said that the engine and transmission were up there. Like he was on the ladder and saw them upstairs.
It's so heavy though. This is crazy.
Listen, I'm just telling you what this guy told me, and I got no reason not to believe that guy, but that's a nutty story.
That is nutty.
But the key is that the guy who was building the garage, building this huge house, or his wife had thought it was just a hunk of metal and just had it scrapped and thrown away.
Yeah.
Go look up what prices are on frames for 1965 Corvettes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why can't you just buy a new frame? How much are they?
Go look them up.
How much is a frame for a 1965 Corvette? $5,000, $6,500, $20,000. God damn, $7,500. So a lot.
It's a lot,
but if he, I mean,
right,
if
it's worth it if you know how to put it together.
Yeah, that's a minimal investment. If you could turn fucking 10 grand into 100, then
yeah. So Jim Varnold from Sarasota, Florida. That story was thank you for submitting that story. Johnny D, man, I love you, brother.
Yeah, I love you too, bro. Thank you for having me on. Thank you again for coming from the wedding. I appreciate you being a part of it. You are one of my favorite people alive. I'm not just saying that because I'm on your podcast. I truly mean of all the people I've ever had in my life, you are one of my favorite that I've ever had. Just a fucking ray of sunshine that you are. And probably the only man I'll ever let dance with my fucking wife. Which you did.
Much love, man. Much love. All right, brother.
All right.
Later, man.
Thanks.